It used to be that if you saw people lining up at a bank, the proper response was to get into the line. And you'd always leave it. And the story is that Sidney Weinberg of Goldman Sachs, during one of the great bank runs back in 1907 or thereabouts, had a job as a runner at Goldman Sachs and asked his boss if he could take the week off. And the boss said, sure, not much is going on anyway. So he got in line, whether it was the Knickerbocker Trust or wherever. And as he got toward the front of the line, he sold his place in line to somebody. He didn't have an account at the bank, but that was an asset. And the banking system has changed so much over the years, and we did something enormously sensible, in my view, when we set up the FDIC. As many as 2,000 banks had failed in 1 year back after World War I. I mean, bank runs were just part of the picture. And if you have people that are worried about whether their money is safe in a bank and all trying to withdraw it, you can't run an economy very well. So the FDIC was very logical. It's got changed over the years some. But here we are in 2023, and we actually see the FDIC pay off at 100 cents on the dollar to everybody, or make it available on all demand deposits. And yet you still have people very worried about their periodically, geographically, all kinds of crazy ways. And that just shouldn't happen. So the messaging has been very poor. It's been poor by the politicians, who sometimes have an interest in having it poor. It's been poor by the agencies, and I'd say it's been poor by the press. I mean, you shouldn't have so many people that misunderstand the fact that although there may be a debt ceiling, it's going to get changed. Although there's a $250,000 limit on the FDIC and the U.S. government and the American public have no interest in having a bank fail and have deposits actually lost by people. We had a demonstration project the weekend of Silicon Valley Bank, and the public is still confused. So it's something to have a law that was passed a law that became effective in 1934, although modified in some ways, not understood about something as important as the banking system. I don't think the American public is that dumb. And I made that offer over in Tokyo, incidentally, that I haven't heard from anybody that wants to take up my $1 million bet on whether the public will lose money if they have a demand deposit at a bank, no matter what the size. So that's the world we live in. It means that a lighted match can turn into a conflagration, or it can be blown out. And who knows what will happen. And we don't have any worry. We keep our money in cash and treasury bills at Berkshire because we keep $128 billion or whatever it was at the end of the quarter. And we want to be there if the banking system temporarily even gets stalled in some way. It shouldn't. I don't think it will, but I think it could. And I think that the incentives in bank regulation are so messed up, and so many people have an interest in having them messed up, that it's totally crazy. I mean, the Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac were doing 40% or so of the mortgage business in the United States. That is huge. They were regulated, just those two companies were regulated by some group, I forget what they called it, but they had 150 people that were in charge of just figuring out whether Freddie and Fannie were doing the right thing. Well, I could have done it, Charlie could have done it, and I'm not sure they needed an assistant even to do it. But the incentives were all wrong, and Freddie and Fannie, which were doing fine in August were apparently doing fine in July and August of 2008, were put into conservatorship, early in September, and the things that followed from that were just incredible. So there are second order and third order and fourth order effects that are somewhat unpredictable as to what they will be and the sequence and all that, but things change. And if people think that deposits are sticky anymore, they're just living in a different era.